Welcome to the Kingdom Corner. I'm Andrew, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Dale Baker. Dale, I don't even know how to start this. The Chiefs
Man,
lost a big one to the Super Bowl, and honestly, this is the first time in our podcast careers here that we've had to do a recap of a Super Bowl that the Chiefs have not won.
oh, oh man, I know it's terrible, isn't it?
It's
It's
awful.
terrible.
It's
It's
awful.
terrible. But the sun did come up on Monday morning, and so
It did.
we are going to talk about the Super Bowl and our thoughts and how we can hopefully never make this let this feeling happen again.
Man, I hope not. So, because we have a lot of power over whether it happens again or not. So, yeah. But so
Well,
we're
they
gonna
look,
be Yeah, we're
yeah,
gonna be looking here at what really happened in this game. One of the things is the Eagles' defensive lines. A lot to talk about there. The Chiefs' offensive line. Who is this loss more on? Is it a coaching problem, a player problem? Is it just a matchup problem? What changes can even be done in the future? And the big question everyone's asking: does this loss have any effect on Patrick Mahomes or his legacy moving forward? So all this and more is coming up. So come hang out with us.
Mahomes looks to throw it. Pump faking right side. He wants it. A comeback cut. It is caught by Kelsey. Touchdown! Kansas City. The game is over. The Kansas City Chiefs are champions.
How about those Chiefs?
All right, so to start, before we get into too much here, we need to make sure we remind you, make sure you like, subscribe, share this podcast, leave a review. This episode here might not be as fun as the other ones because we're having to recap a loss in a Super Bowl, but please still do that. That helps us a lot. Comment on it, share it with your friends. That helps us so much. So, but Dale, the first thing we got to talk about is maybe just ask this question: what happened? What
what
happened to the Chiefs? We came in. I was feeling pretty good. The game was getting closer. I thought, okay, maybe I should feel a little bit nervous. And honestly, the part I was nervous about was could the Chiefs defense stop Saquon
right.
Barkley? I wasn't really worried about the offense, and you told me the opposite. You said you had the opposite thoughts.
Yeah, I was worried about that offensive line. We have been talking about it all year. We've been trying to band-aid it together, and it just did not. The bandage got in the pool and got wet and fell off.
That's right.
It's what happened because yeah, you had a left guard playing left tackle, and it just we got exposed, and our right tackle got
Yeah,
exposed as well,
yeah,
and they just had a better players up front. Where we have five, they have four, and they got pressure consistently. Almost got a NFL record with the amount of sacks they had in the Super Bowl. And so luckily we stopped them long enough not to get that record, but still, I think that shows you just how much of a mismatch it was, the
yeah.
offensive line. And so that's what happened. The offensive line is what happened.
So I don't disagree with you, and I'll get more to that in a second. But let me ask this: were
Yeah.
the Chiefs just unprepared for this game?
I just don't think they made the right adjustments. It felt like they
Yeah,
didn't make any adjustments, even at halftime or in the game. I think one thing we talked about all year was the adjustments they had made, whether it's on defense or offense. They made those adjustments, and it seemed like
yeah,
they did not try anything, whether bringing in an extra tackle or a bigger body. Bring in
yeah,
DJ Humphreys, bring in the other Kingsley. I don't know if they're on the roster or not, but bring those guys
yeah,
in just to help do 7-on-4 or 6-on-4 instead of 5-on-4 and getting
yeah.
destroyed.
It's crazy that we have five guys trying to block four people and we can't do it. So,
Right.
and I'll say this: Joe Tooney, a left tackle, I know he got exposed, but he did as good as you could have expected a guard to do
Oh,
at tackle, as
yeah.
good or better. I don't
Yeah.
think any guard in the NFL is going to play that position better than Joe Tooney did as
Right.
a guard. Now, as far as tackles go, not even cracking, top 10, top 15 even, but as
Right.
good as a guard could have expected to do is what he did. And that's
Yeah.
what we saw. And so, yeah, I agree with all that. So I don't think is more so, well, to your point, first off, that the Chiefs didn't make any adjustments. I 100%
Right.
agree with that. The Eagles, this is what we knew going into the game. We knew
Right. We
the
knew.
Eagles' defensive line was the thing to watch out for. We knew the Chiefs' offensive line was one of our biggest weaknesses. We knew those
Uh-huh.
two things going into the game. And I think that's the matchup that everybody, even most casual fans, knew that. right? I
Right.
mean, you don't have to be someone who studies the game a lot to know, okay, the Eagles have a great defensive line and the Chiefs offensive line struggles. If
Yeah.
you're if you even somewhat pay attention to football, you knew those two things going in. And so as casual fans, or maybe we're not casual fans, probably not, but as fans here, we
Right.
knew that. And so I thought, okay, because of that, I thought Andy Reid, he has an offensive line coaching background. He played offensive line. He's going to have
Right.
a game plan for this. So that's why I wasn't worried about it. And what do I know? Actually, I didn't know that he wasn't going to do anything. And
Yeah.
between him and the offensive line coach and even the offensive coordinator, because that's on him too. Like when you
Yep.
see things happening, even at halftime, you go and say, "Okay, guys, this isn't working." And instead of
Right.
saying, "Okay, we're going to bring in extra blockers," you pointed out, or maybe just every play, we're chipping those edge guys every single play. You
Or
know,
hey, let's run the ball.
yeah, or run the ball, right? So like all these things you can do, and you're like,
Right.
you know what? Instead of doing those things, they just go to the offensive line and say, "Hey, you guys just need to play better."
Right.
Like that was their solution. Go to those guys, say,
Yeah.
"Play better. We got this. Play
Right.
better." Okay, well, obviously they don't have it, so you need
No.
to change it up. And I'm not saying that those guys are all bad players or anything like that,
Oh,
uh,
no, 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 no.
but every single one of them had struggles. The probably the only two positions that were consistent was Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, and
Yep.
and both those guys had their struggles as well. But those are the two consistent guys on that whole line, and so
Yeah. And all year,
God,
all year,
yeah, and all
they have
year,
been,
yeah,
yeah, been consistent. I mean, even we could say Tooney was consistent. It just, it was just too much to ask for him to do.
yeah.
Uh,
He's not built even to be a tackle. I mean, those
no.
tackles are usually 50 pounds heavier and 4 inches
But
taller
yeah.
than Joe
Right.
Tooney is, have longer arms, all that. Joe Tooney, he's built
Yeah.
like a guard even. So
Yeah.
it's nothing against Joe Tooney. He is a great player,
Oh,
all pro at his position, but this just was not his position.
yeah.
So, but yeah, and to your point too, why are we not running the ball? We got to the
Yeah.
point, I don't remember when it was, but I even mentioned to the people I was watching, I said, we've only run the ball one time this game. How do you mitigate pass rushers? You force them to
Right.
be honest. And they just said, you know what?
Yeah.
We're just going to pass every time so you guys know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So when we do that, just know we're passing so you guys can just come straight for Patrick Mahomes. Don't even worry about stopping the run. And we did everything we could to help them be and have a
Right.
successful day. We did everything we
Yeah.
could to help them, and it worked out perfectly for them because we did all we could. But we got to that point, and I even looked at them and said, "We've only run it one time this whole game." And I don't remember, it was either at the end of the second or maybe into the third. I said that,
Uh-huh.
and then the very next series, they ran it like twice or something. But
Yeah.
for the entire game, they had 11 rushing attempts.
How many
11.
was by How many was by Patrick though?
That is a great question, I'll tell you. Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes had 4 attempts. So you take
Oh,
those out, 7.
so,
Wait,
so
right?
yeah, 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 yeah. You're
Yeah,
right.
okay. I went to
Yeah,
seminary.
yeah,
Math is hard for me. So,
yeah. No, you're right. So
yeah.
7 rushes with Kareem Hunt or Pacheco, and that's what we have for to show for. And yeah, of course we're going to get blown out. Of course,
Yeah.
So
Well, and here's the thing. Like, I know that the rush game and running the ball is not our strength. I understand that.
right.
But the other side is we've relied on that all year long. When Pacheco was out, Kareem Hunt carried the team for 2 or 3 games.
Oh
And there's
yeah,
some games early in the season where Isaiah Pacheco carried the team. And I'm not saying that we need them to do that, but we need them to get more than, 4 touches or whatever it was.
yeah.
So Kareem Hunt had 3 attempts. Isaiah Pacheco had 3 attempts, and Samaje Perine had 1 attempt. You give anybody in the NFL and say, "Hey, we're going to run you 3 times in the Super Bowl. Do you think you can get something going with that?"
Right,
They're looking at you like, "Are you crazy? You're
right.
going to give me the ball 3 times? You expect me to find some momentum to actually get going in this game?" It's
Yeah,
just, I don't understand the game planning behind this. And part of that goes to Andy Reid, part of that goes to the offensive coordinator. It's like, why are
right.
we not making these adjustments? I'm getting
Yeah.
fired up again just talking about this thing.
You're gonna
It's
have a bad
just,
day, man. You're gonna have a bad day. Calm down.
oh man,
I think the big thing was, and I think you talked about it there, is this we could not. I mean, Eagles came out just hot, ready to play,
yeah,
and they had all the momentum. I thought we had a shot there. There was a couple times where we had a shot to take the momentum and run with it. The interception being one.
yeah,
Then we had a defensive lineman line up off sides that continued to drive. We had some penalties that were questionable.
Yeah.
called against us. I'm not saying that McDuffie didn't hit Goddard in the face, but I also felt like the rest were going to make sure the Chiefs didn't gain an advantage, which is fine. We don't need the advantage, but it was just like it seemed like a little suspect. That's all I'm going to say. But it just seemed like we were making the bonehead plays where we couldn't get off the field where we had them. I mean, that one where we blitzed and it was like I think a third down, and they were going to punt and we were going to get the ball back, but instead they ended up getting 3 points and making it 10-0. And so I think,
Yeah.
it's just a lot of things where the Chiefs had the opportunity, they just did not take advantage, and which is, I think, what is most shocking for us as fans is because we've grown up, or well, not the last 7 years, we've seen where they have taken the advantage, they have taken those opportunities and then run with it. I mean, the Texans game is the one that comes to mind where
Yeah.
down 24 points or 26 points, and then to take a lead in half and then to continue that run. I think where you see they took advantage of some momentum and ran with it, and they just didn't, like they didn't want it. They're like, no, 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 you keep it, Eagles, and that's just it's why it was a wild game. It was a wild game. I've never seen anything
Yeah.
like it. Oh wait, against Tampa Bay, I have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So in the Super Bowl, yeah,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, and here's one thing that Creed said about the defensive line after the game. I didn't watch or listen to all
right,
of them. I just heard this clip from it, and it's the only thing I've heard because it's too bitter, honestly, to
yeah,
listen to all these things. And I know we're professional podcasters here. Uh, I know we are, but when
yeah,
it comes down to it, what we really are is fans, right? And that's
right.
why these are so hard. And I understand, yes, it's just a game. I
Oh yeah,
fully understand. I fully accept. I get that. But it's fun to have things like this you can just kind of jump on and just enjoy in
yeah,
life. And so I'm not saying that this is the most important thing in life by any means, but that's why these are so hard losses, is because
right.
we put so much into it because it's just a great hobby, a great thing we want to be a part of and enjoy with these guys. And so it is hard. But here's one of the things, and that's why I can't watch anything and haven't watched anything yet. And also why we didn't make a podcast the day after the Super Bowl, because
Oh,
all it would have been was very bitter. If you think I'm
uh-huh.
bitter now, this is very good compared to where I was.
There you go.
So just being honest here. But here's what Creed
Yeah,
Humphrey said. He said, quote, the Eagles didn't show anything defensively that they had not put on tape yet.
right,
And so he's saying we didn't see any new stunts, we didn't see any new blitzes, we didn't see anything we hadn't seen.
right.
And some people are saying, well, that means he's calling out coaching. Maybe. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
say he is or isn't, but I'm just
right,
saying with that said, with him saying there's nothing we hadn't seen, then
right.
why were we not prepared for it?
Exactly.
That's my question. Is if it's nothing
Well,
we
and I
haven't
think like
seen, why are we not prepared?
it's one thing to see it, right? It's a whole nother thing to experience it.
Yeah, it's true.
And so when Jalen Carter or Nolan Smith, whoever is lined up, and you're like, man, this guy is a tank. And I think that's what it was. It was bronze versus brains this game, and we got outplayed, flat out. They just bullied us all game and bullied us. And they said, we're not going to show you anything new. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to do it well. And that's exactly what they did. They did well. So they did super well. And then
Well,
I mean, like you think about the benefit of only rushing four guys. How many
yeah,
guys does that leave out in coverage? Well, seven.
yeah,
And when you can have seven guys and they're all eyes on Mahomes and watching everything, it's such an advantage. And so, yeah, that's how you beat any quarterback, I think. Not just
yeah,
Mahomes, but just any quarterback. And you can get home with four. And we've talked about this on this podcast for the last 3 years. We have to be able to get pressure with the four because it
yep,
makes such a huge difference. And we saw that huge difference. And so let's go out and get Myles Garrett. Let's go get Micah Parsons. Let's keep Chris Jones and let's get George Karlaftis going. I mean, I think that's
yeah.
how we,
I agree with all those things. Let's get all of them. So I
yeah,
don't
let's
know
get
that
them
we can
all.
afford them all, but maybe they'll come for uh, a year or two just to get themselves a Super Bowl ring. So yeah,
Hey,
and I
that's all
think
right
part
with
of this
me.
too, like we talked about this, and I was a uh, big voice on this going into the season when we realized we didn't have left tackle. Who was
Huh?
it that I said over and over that the Chiefs should do? I said, go sign Donovan Smith. I
Yeah,
said he's sitting at home. He was with you the last 2 years, help you win those Super Bowls.
yeah,
He knows how Mahomes plays. He knows how he likes to scramble. He knows the playbook. I understand it's different every year, but for the most part,
right.
he knows your system.
Yeah,
and we had success with him. We won Super Bowls with him. And we
Right.
realized we didn't have a left tackle, and Brett Veach said, we're good with who we got. Like,
Right.
I think part of this comes back to him. And I realize that, if the Chiefs would have won the Super Bowl, no one would be talking about this. But the fact is we didn't, and we got blown out in an embarrassing fashion. And
Right.
so we are going to talk about it. And so Brett
Well,
Veach,
and I think
part of this goes to him. When you see that big of a weakness, everybody in the league saw that as a weakness.
yeah.
It's not just
Yeah.
us. It's not just everybody
Oh,
saw it as weakness.
everybody. Yeah.
And Brett Veach said, let's just move our all-pro guard to tackle. Well, I know he's not the right size. I know he's not big enough. I know he's not tall enough. I know he doesn't have long
Right.
enough arms, but we'll make it work.
So do you think and is it Clark Hunt? Is it his fault? Not open up the pocketbook in a sense to be like, hey, let's get someone we know, like you said, this is the one Super Bowl I wanted. Like this is the one I wanted the most because it creates so much history. And so like Clark Hunt really failed us here in the sense that like let's get someone that is going to protect your greatest asset in the sense of like you have history to be able to make. And so now you have blown it because now who knows if we'll ever be able to do the three-peat again.
Well,
Never say never. Never say never.
I agree with you with one part. Like you never know. Maybe it could happen again, but it's unlikely.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is on Clark Hunt. I mean, you're trying to make it sound like it is. I think Clark Hunt. Oh, no. No, I heard what you said. You said Clark Hunt didn't open up his pocketbook, and that's why the Chiefs aren't winning it. That's what you said.
I said, Shirley Breach went to him and said, hey, what can we do? And he goes, hey, you win with who you got.
I don't think he said that. I don't think
you don't think so.
I don't think Clark Hunt sits back and says, you know what? Let me tell you how to do your job. You got what you need, and you got enough players. I don't think Clark Hunt said any of that. I think if it's not a big move, I don't think Brett Veach has to even go to him. Now, maybe if it's a big trade or having to get big draft picks, maybe he calls, Clark Hunt and say, hey, can we trade a first-round pick for this guy or whatever the case may be? And if that happened, then, maybe it is on Clark Hunt. But we don't know if those things happen because those conversations don't get leaked out. But as far as him just saying, open up your pocketbook, I don't think Clark Hunt is I don't think he's going to be keeping that money from the Chiefs because of the historic thing that's going to happen. I think Brett Veach just got a little ahead of himself and thought that he could do it with who he had. And I mean, look, he made a trade for somebody and trade for DeAndre Hopkins, which is great player. I'm not going against him at all. I'm glad he was with the Chiefs this year, but he didn't target a left tackle. It didn't seem like there weren't hardly even any rumors that the Chiefs were targeting a left tackle. I mean, we even started hearing some rumors about DeAndre Hopkins right before it was finalized, but we didn't hear anything about a left tackle, and most of those guys, for whatever reason, they have those insights. And I think if they were looking at left tackles and shopping around for them, we would have heard something about it.
There you go. All right. Well,
so it's
you believe your truth. I'll believe my truth.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, here's the last thing I want to say about this defensive line for the Eagles. So to your point, you brought it up. They created pressure with four guys, which is true. And on those four rushers, they created pressure on 38% of Patrick Mahomes' dropbacks with no blitzes. No blitzes, 38% of all of his dropbacks, they were creating pressure. I mean, that is a ridiculous stat right there.
Yeah.
There should be no reason you should get 38% pressure rushing four guys. I mean, that's just, not good. Not good at all. So, for comparison, in this game, the Chiefs allowed Patrick Mahomes to get sacked 6 times. And you remember the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers that you referenced earlier. In that game, Patrick Mahomes was only sacked 3 times.
Right.
I mean, if that tells you anything, I mean, if you look at these 2 games, this was a worse loss and a bigger blowout and a worse matchup for the Chiefs than it was against the Buccaneers.
Oh, yeah.
And the Buccaneers, they were at least getting first downs, but they would just stall out, at midfield or wherever. Here, they couldn't even get a first down.
Well, and I think the credit the Eagles' defensive line was the fact that they contained him so much better than the Tampa Bay Bucks did, because Patrick was able to run and try to make plays and throws on the run, but the Eagles man, they kept him in that pocket
Yep.
and they took him down. And when he did get out, he paid for it. So
Yep. They
yeah,
had pass rush lane integrity. I mean, they just
yeah,
said, we're going to rush you effectively without getting out of our lanes and contain you. And there's one play, I think, as the start of the third quarter, that the Chiefs actually did something to negate the pass rush. They rolled him out to the right as soon as it snapped. And what do you know? Had like a 10, 12-yard completion, whatever it was. And I thought,
yeah,
fantastic. We're going to finally do something. And then that
right.
was the last we saw it. And I'm thinking, you do it one time, it works, and it's like, okay, now we got it figured out. You didn't, but that's what you thought apparently. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I don't want to keep harping on that. So it's
No,
just, oh
let,
man. But here,
let me when. Yeah, let me ask you. When did you know it was over?
the start of the third quarter when the Chiefs went 3-and-out.
All right,
Uh,
my same. That's what I
I
knew. I said, yeah,
even at halftime, I was like, okay, you know what? Yes, they're down by 20. If they can come out and their defense can start shutting them down a little more, and
yeah,
they can get a touchdown to start, I mean, we'll be all right. But then when they went 3-and-out, which told me we made zero adjustments, is what that told me.
right,
And because we made zero adjustments, I thought, I think this is over. It's
yeah,
You don't have a chance. And then they went 3-0 the very next time they got the ball too, and that was just like the nail in the coffin. Like, okay, well, at this point, we're just playing for pride as much as anything because
yeah.
we're not winning now because you can't even get a first down after you know you have to. So just, oh man, it was frustrating if nothing else. So,
Oh yes.
oh well, either way, sun came up. But here, who is this loss more on, do you think? Do you think this is more a loss based on coaching? Is it just players not executing, or you think it's just a bad matchup for the Chiefs?
I think it would be a combination of the coaching and players. Number one, the coaching didn't have the players ready, and it just did not look like the players were ready to play. Again, it had so much of that Tampa Bay game feel where like they just felt like they
Yeah.
were just going through the motions and not executing at a high level, which you have to be able to do. And I do realize that like they have your number in the sense of like they're getting pressure, and then there's 7 guys out there in the field, and it's like where do we throw the ball even? And yeah, I think it was a combination of both. I mean, the defense, credit the defense. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I mean,
Yeah.
I felt like they were ready to play, and they sold out, and they did exactly what they wanted to do. Now they did make a couple mistakes, as I mentioned earlier, there in the beginning of the game that I think really gave the Eagles a little bit of momentum. But other than that, they really stepped up
Oh yeah.
to
I
stop the
I
Eagles.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, you asked me this question before. It's like if you would have told me, that the Chiefs
Yeah,
would have held Saquon Barkley to 57 rushing yards, what would have you thought? And I think I told you something like, I would have guessed that the Chiefs won by at least 2 possessions.
yeah,
Because you saw Saquon Barkley and hold him to 57 rushing yards. I mean, that's incredible. So the lowest output in his postseason with the Eagles this season, prior to this game, was like 112 yards. So we're talking about almost half of what his average or his
right.
lowest production is. So it's is incredible, the job the defense did, and so the defense was put in some bad positions too. Patrick Mahomes had a pick six, so there's 7 points right there that's not on the defense. He had another interception that they got the ball at the 12-yard line. And at that point,
Uh-huh.
I don't know about you, but I saw and thought, well, they're going to score a touchdown from there. And they did.
Yeah,
I'm with Saquon Barkley and all those other weapons. So that's another 14 points off turnovers. Then we had the fumble by Patrick Mahomes when he's trying to heave it down the field. And you can make an argument about that. Maybe he should or shouldn't have, or maybe it's not really on him because he's just trying to win at that point.
right.
But that even led to another 3 points. So they held them to a field goal, which is incredible job by the defense, hold them to a field goal. So
Yeah,
that's 17 points right there off of turnovers. So, they scored 40 points total. So if you take that
uh-huh.
away, that means they scored 23 points in the game, not off turnovers. And remind me,
Woo.
Dale, how many points did the Chiefs end up with in that game?
Well, they did end up with 22, but
Yes.
that
And I
last
realize, yes, I
the
realize
last
that last
touchdown was
touchdown, yeah, is garbage time touchdown. I understand that.
yeah.
But even you take that away, that's a game though. If
Oh
you're
yeah,
if you're there 14-22, you're
right.
still within striking distance. That's still a one possession game.
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
what I'm saying is those turnovers cost them dearly. I mean,
Yeah,
dearly. And it was the same thing in that Buccaneers game. Patrick Mahomes had 2 turnovers in that game too. But at that point, I'm not in that Buccaneers game. I don't blame him near as much because in that
Yeah.
Buccaneers game, all his receivers kept dropping balls that were hitting them in the hands anyways.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's a little bit different. But yeah, if I had to pick one thing in this game, though, to go back to our first question, who's this lost more on?
Okay.
I think it's more on coaching.
All right.
And yes, I agree. The players did not execute to what was put out in
Yeah.
front of them either. There's a bad matchup between the offensive defensive line. All those things are 100% true as well. But if there's one thing that I'm saying more than the other, it's coaching. And I say coaching because of what we just talked about earlier. There's no adjustments made to what we were seeing on the field. And if
Right.
there's no adjustments being made, that's not on the players, that's on coaching. And so
Right.
coaching's got to come in there and say, hey, we got to run the ball a little more. We got to, scramble a little more. We got to roll out a little. And none of those things were done.
Yeah. None of them. None of them. None of them.
Yep. So that brings me
I
to this
mean,
question then.
all
Because
right.
none of those things were done, what kind of changes should be done moving forward? So
Well, I think that.
yeah, I would
Oh,
say
go ahead.
so.
Sorry.
Should there be a change in coaching in some way? Is there some we should do with players? What do you think?
So this is the most exciting part of being, I guess, the exciting part of the loss, right?
Oh, well, I don't.
Is no. So we
Okay,
have the
go
loss.
ahead.
We can't change that, right? Can't change
Right,
it. The
right.
most exciting part is that every time we've lost in the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, Brett Veach and his team have done a fantastic job of fixing whatever happened. And so, like when we lost against
Yeah,
Tampa Bay, he fixed the offensive line, right? And it was
yeah,
great.
yep,
And it, got us to two more championships. And so I think I think, and then with the wide receivers not be able to catch last year, what did he do? He changed it and fixed it. And so we had guys on the field that can catch. Xavier Worthy, I mean, is going to be a big time star.
yep,
Rasheed Rice comes back. You got D Hop, Hollywood Brown, probably both gone. We don't know. But I think there's ways that he has fixed it. And I think that's probably the most exciting part of this is okay, we're not going to just sit on our hands. Clark Hunt's going to open that pocketbook and we're going to restructure things and get Pat Mahomes the best offensive line money can buy. Or at least give a shot at it, give a really, really good try at it, and so fix that offensive line. So I do think I don't think you change coaching because Andy Reid's Andy Reid. Matt Nagy has 49% of the vote, so I don't think you get rid of them. Spags is killing it. He's just killing. And one of the things about we're not going to change coaching staff is because Andy Reid is way too loyal for way too long. But that's a whole nother conversation.
yep,
So with those things,
yep. I agree with that completely. So, uh, I think that all those things are right and true, and things are going to have to be changed. The problem right now with our offensive line is they got so much money in Juwan Taylor, they can't move off
yeah,
of him. So even if they release him this year, they're still going to have like a $28 million cap hit. So
let's just
that's,
trade them to the Bills.
yeah, might as well. Might as well. So I just don't think you're going to find anybody to cover that salary. So I don't think you can trade him either. And so you're going to be stuck with Juwan Taylor for at least another year. After that, it's more doable. I think after that, his cap hit is like 8 million or 11 million, something
Yeah,
like that. And that's a lot more feasible than having a $28 million cap hit on a guy who's not even on your team. And that doesn't
right,
mean it can't happen. I mean, the Broncos succeeded this year with still paying Russell Wilson, you know, a
right.
boatload of money. So it can happen. But the other thing I think is they have to address the left tackle. I think
Oh yeah,
that is a given for anybody that knows football or anybody that watches Super Bowl. They know they have to address that. Move Joe Tooney back inside. They got to, well, and part of this is going to depend on too. Some of these guys who are at the end of their contracts, what they're going to do. Like
right,
Trey Smith's at the end of his contract. Are they going to pay him? Nick Bolton.
right.
Are they going to pay him? And some of these other guys you mentioned that were on 1 year deals, like Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. I know
Uh-huh.
DeAndre Hopkins. I saw he put out that he's not done yet. So that
There
doesn't
you
mean he's coming
go.
back to the Chiefs, but he just put out that he's not done yet, which means he's come
Yeah,
back to play again. He's not retiring. And I think
there
the
you
Chiefs
go.
would have a good shot at re-signing him if he wanted to come back to the Chiefs,
Right.
because I think DeAndre Hopkins, would love to win a Super Bowl. So he's been in one now, but I think to win one, I think he knows he has a good shot if he comes back with the Chiefs too. The other side is I think the Chiefs have to address their defensive line. To your point, what you said earlier, they got to find some players who can get pressure with four guys.
Right. Right.
As much as I love the guys that they have, Rashard Wharton, he's had the best year of his entire career this year.
Yeah.
Great guy. George has come on, but
Yeah.
that other position, I know Minihew's coming off an injury, and last year, Minihew was a wrecking ball.
Uh-huh.
So maybe part of that was just because he was still coming off injury. So if he can come back, I'm all for signing him again too.
Yeah.
But they have to address it and bring somebody else in, whether that's trading for a guy or moving up in the draft to draft a guy. But the other side is, what are you going to do at your left tackle position too? So if you're drafting
Right. You
or
got that.
trading,
You're
so
drafted.
yeah,
Miles
so
Garrett that's like, the Chiefs are favored to get Miles Garrett. Did
that's
you
what
see
I
that?
heard. I did see that.
Who's
Yeah.
wearing 95?
So Chris Jones is going to wear that. He's not giving that up. So, and I think Miles Garrett, because he's the one requesting a trade,
Uh-huh.
he'd be willing to do that. But the other side is, I don't know what his contract is, and I'm not sure with the Chiefs cap hit what it's going to be and how they could afford him, unless he's going to come and restructure right away, which he might be
Well,
willing
I
to
think
because he's
I think
wanting to get out.
so his last he has 2 years left on it, and they're not guaranteed years. So he would have to restructure it anyway.
Oh, all right. Well, that works out well then.
It
So
does.
I'd love to see that happen then. Brett Veach, I'm going to officially say, make a call to Cleveland Browns and make this happen. So
Make it
apparently,
happen.
let's see if he wants to come and win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, you can have your own thoughts of him as a person. Has had some struggles in that way, but as a player, as a football player, Miles Garrett is one of the best. So,
What do
all
you
right.
do? Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Last question I got for you here.
All right.
Because of this loss, is Mahomes' legacy tainted by this loss? And maybe the follow-up question to that is, when he gets to these big games, these two Super Bowls that he's lost in big
Yeah.
ways. So when he gets to
Right.
these really big games, does he just get too much in his head?
No, I think he just gets so rattled. Not rattled. That's the wrong word, because I don't think he gets in his head. I think he's just like, he tries to do so much. Then he feels like it's all on him to make a play, and he tries throwing balls where he don't normally doesn't throw, like the Cooper DeJean interception.
Oh yeah, that was a bad one.
Was like he was just trying to fit in there. Even the next one where I forget the guy's name, Vaughn, is it Vaughn who intercepted it in the middle of the field, was like he was just trying to make a play and got bumped.
Yeah.
And so no, his legacy is not tainted. He's 29 years old. He has at least 10 more years in the league. Like, let's just judge the guy at the end. Like I really think we probably need to stop. I mean, he's my goat, and I can say that, but like I think we just need to stop debating Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes until Mahomes' career is done, and then let's see what it's like. I mean, we could debate 20-year-old Mahomes and 20-year-old Brady, and Mahomes wins, right? Better numbers,
right?
Better Super Bowls, and so like he wins. Now we can look into the 30s and 40s and see if Mahomes is still playing in his 40s. He may not be. But I think he does have a hunger and a thirst to be the greatest quarterback to ever play, or greatest football player to ever play football. And so let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see.
I 100% agree with you. So we're comparing a guy who played for 20 years in the NFL to a guy who's now only started for 7 years. So there's a lot of football that Tom Brady's been able to play that Mahomes just hasn't had the opportunity to because he's only 29 years old. So before he's 30 years old, he's already been to 5 Super Bowls, won 3 of them, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and has never fallen short of anything in a season short of the AFC Championship game. So 7 years as a starter, 7 years in the AFC Championship game. So, but I do think that sometimes those big games, Mahomes does get a little bit in his own head. I mean, the 2 Super Bowls he's lost one is against Tom Brady. So you're the guy who, even before Tom Brady retired, they were saying, can Mahomes ever catch him? I mean, and so there's a lot of talk about how Mahomes can ever be good unless he beat Tom Brady. And so there's a lot of pressure, whether he wants to admit it or not. I think there's pressure on him to perform well. And once again, though, all this is not on Mahomes. His offensive line played awful in both these games. And then this game going into a three-peat, making decisions that he might not normally make. And so, no, his legacy is not going to be tainted, but sometimes I think these guys get a little bit into their own heads, whether they want to admit it or not. I think they
Right.
do. So, well, let me finish up with this here too. So for our final records for the
Oh,
season on our betting lines, there is a 1 game difference in our win records between you and I,
yes.
which honestly is incredible because we've both have not picked the same
No.
almost every week, and we're within 1 game of each other. So the winner this year is Mr. Dale Baker with
All
28
right.
and a 31 record, so still losing record,
Man.
but and then I'm right behind you
Yeah.
at 27 and 32. So don't
Wow.
don't base
Don't quit.
anything on us to make your money on betting apparently. So
Yeah, I think I probably shouldn't quit my day job. Is that what you're telling me? Probably
no,
should
you should not.
still.
Keep on pastoring there, shepherding those
There you go.
people. So
There you go. So, okay, what's the before we leave, and I know we've got time coming, but what are you looking? What needs to happen in the off season?
all right, great question. So most of
What
this
do
is
you want to
gonna
see that happens in the off season? We got
Okay,
the
what
draft,
I'd
we got
like
the
to see.
combine, we
So
got free
I'd like
agency,
to
and
see
all that.
them re-sign Trey Smith because your offensive line is
Okay,
already struggling. Let's not try to mess with anymore. So I'd like to see them re-sign Trey Smith. Some of those other guys, you might have to let them walk to afford him. But then I want to see them address the left tackle position. I think you're stuck with Jawan Taylor for another year, so he's going to be your right tackle. But address the left tackle, and then I need at least one more great pass rusher. Not a maybe let's just take a flyer. I mean, we need a great pass
right.
rusher to create pressure with four. And then the other pieces, well, let's see what happens. But those are the 3 things I want to see: resign Trey Smith, get a great left tackle, and a great defensive end to pass rush.
There you go.
All
There you
right.
go. All right. Sounds good, man. I'm
All right.
fired up for the
Hey,
offseason. I mean,
uh, let's see it.
free agency is going to happen here in a couple weeks, and then the draft, and we'll see where the Chiefs where they fall, and we'll be in OTAs before we can blink.
That's right. So another long season, but a great season again.
Oh
Felt
man,
felt
yeah.
just a little bit short of where we wanted to, but still a great season. Great time hanging out with y'all. Thank you for joining us this season for the 2024 season of the AFC champions, Kansas City Chiefs. I'm sure we'll be here soon to address some off-season things and talks and trades and whatever else happens to you. But until next time, we'll see you. We'll see you then. But this episode is brought to you in this season by Oh Hey Thread, so you can get your own super soft tee or hoodie, even your own hat, a Chiefs Kingdom hat, even at ohheythreads.com. You can go there and you can get you your own super soft stuff. And if you use the code Kingdom Corner, you can get yourself 15% off any order you want for the next month or so. So we'll see you next time right here in the Kingdom Corner.